So I'm here with John from Badcat. We are at the Badcat facility here in California. And John, you're going to show us how, what the process is of building a Badcat.
I would be happy to do that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, first, this is the chassis prep station right here. And so what they do is they take sort of raw chassis, transformers, which we buy by the ton, and then they assemble the initial parts of the chassis. So you get switches, back panel products, transformers. In the case of our PCB amps, we tend to, I think we put some back panel boards on and things. The boards are all here on just this side of the wall. We get them made for us. We used to stuff them ourselves, but we found out that there were people in the world that were much better at that than we were.
And these are all the PCB amps.
The Player Series PCB amps are all over here, right? And then once that's done, they go on these kind of carts like this, or on pallets like this, and they work their way around the corner. And then around the corner is where they actually install the boards, the pots, and things like that. And then they move their way that-a-way, which it's kind of hard to explain it, but follow me. Walk this way. Get over here to the tech stations where you have Garrett and Jerry. Jerry, you can't see Jerry. He's invisible today on Fridays. And what they do is they tube them up, and once they are all tubed up and tested on the scopes, they go on to this burn-in rack right here. And on this burn-in rack, we basically send signal through them and run them through a digital audio workstation, like a recording software, right? And so this continuous signal runs through each amp, and then we can see like a 3 or 4 hour little block on a screen. So when the amps are finished burning in, we go back and look at the representation on the screen. And if there is something where there's like a blip or you see the signal drop off a bit, then they know that, number 6 better be checked, and we go through and check them.
So you want them to fail here?
We want them to fail here. Fail early and fail here is probably is best, right? And then actually if there are failures, what we do is Garrett here has a basically a spreadsheet that's sortable where all the failures are logged. So if there's something that's systemic that happens on a regular basis, we can walk it back through the process and change whatever we had to change to get there. And also he records repairs as they come back as well. So our goal is to make them all not fail. We're not 100% for sure, but I mean that's kind of where we're trying to get to anyway.
Yeah, it's great to have the QC before it gets to the customer, before they have problems. You've solved everything before.
Years ago, I mean, it was just a few of us here. We got 19 employees now or something. But back when it was just me and Eric and a few guys, invariably it would be just about to go in the box and start making a noise, and you'd go, oh God, take it all apart and take it back and walk it through. But we sort of over the years figured out a better way to do that. And then when these guys get done, they go in the dungeon over here. And there's the mighty Rob, who knows every Led Zeppelin riff in the world. He comes in here and he sets them up on this little loom. There's 4 of them at a time. And then we have an amp switcher here, and he can just go through and test 4 chassis at a time, or 1 at a time if he wants to. And then we compare them side by side to what are sort of the golden samples here off to the side.
Okay, so those are the finished...
Yeah, finished products that are deemed to be operating at 100%, and just they're great. And so Rob will play them here, check them out, and he clears them. He puts a little QC stamp on it, and out she goes this away. And they go on these beautifully designed racks, customized with the little bit of carpet.
Just this view is very impressive.
Yeah.
The amount of amplifiers here is...
Yeah, I don't know the numbers exactly. I mean, we ship, I don't know, somewhere around 140 to 160 a month, something like that.
Wow.
Which it sounds like a lot, right? But if Fender shipped 100 amps a month, they would basically close their doors. And yeah.
Well, this is a much smaller operation than Fender.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, it's a lot of amps. It's impressive.
And then you go this way. And here's where they get put into cabinets. And our cabinets come in. We have a cabinet shop that's in Hesperia, which is about, I think in California, that's about maybe a 2-hour drive northward. And it's in the middle of the desert, and there's a cabinet shop out there, and they build the cabs. We bring them out this way, and then we stock them here. And then we used to, back in the day, remember back in the day, everything was custom. You'd say, oh, I want a red this and a blue that and all that kind of stuff. So we decided to do is, if we ever wanted to scale up, we had to do a couple things, right? Because we wanted to bring our prices down without changing the quality of how things are built. So we knew the only way to get that done was to make a universal transformer set, which we designed, because that's the background I have. It came from transformer companies. And so now we buy transformers 1,000 at a time, right? So if you buy 1,000 transformers, they go from being like this much money to this much money, and it's the same transformer, right? Same thing with chassis, and same thing with cabinets. So we decided that we'll make the Badcat this color scheme, we'll make the Hotcat this color scheme. That way we can stock cabinets, and that way we can increase the speed at which we churn things out the door.
And that was the thing that always stood out to me about Badcat, is that like you have combo versions and head versions of almost every amp that you make, and it makes so much sense for on a scale in a factory where you can put the same in a head or in a combo. Like that always stood out to me as there's thought process here.
Yeah, because it started because I was so small that I couldn't afford to have enormous amounts of inventory. So I had to sort of consolidate things and say, I'm going to make everything. When I bought Badcat in 2011. And when I got there, it was, there were like 6 chassis, 12 transformer sets, and I couldn't afford to stock. How could you stock all that stuff? You couldn't. So over the course of the next 5 years at that time, we found a way to get everything into the same size chassis. We built universal transformer sets, and I never believed that mojo stuff about, oh, it's got to have this, no. M6 laminates, well made, paper bobbins was even kind of a nonsense thing. It was just about the tightness of the wrapping and the proximity of the wires to each other. If they were looser, there was less inductance, which means that it had greater high end and more clarity. That was the whole trick, right? But anyway, so we had to consolidate inventory, and that's sort of where we're at right now. And now I've got 3 speakers that we offer, 4 speakers. That drives me crazy because I wish we had 1 speaker, but the truth is different things sound differently, and so they sound better.
What would be your favorite speaker?
There's 2 actually. Okay, here's an example. So like we have a standard 112 cabinet, right? Which is like the Cub or the Badcat or the Hotcat. We're experimenting with some smaller cabinets, which are they're 20 and a half inches wide. You see one back here, and one right here. See this size here. If you put our standard Badcat speaker in there, even the stock V30, it sounds boxy, kind of like this, right? If you put a Celestion G12H30 in there, it just comes alive. It sounds so much better. And so I gotta say, different speakers sound better in different cabinets, and that's kind of like the frustrating thing about this whole business, right?
You can't slim it down, and your amplifier will change completely with a different speaker.
Yeah, people always talk about, I'm going to modify my amp like this. Well, the best way to modify your amp is change the speaker, because you will drastically change the EQ curve of an amp by changing a speaker. Even the amplitude, because certain like low efficiency speakers are going to give the perception of being much quieter than say like a high efficiency speaker. Yeah. But I like that. I like the Badcat speaker. I like the G12H30. I really like the Badcat speaker, which for the longest time was this big secret, right? It's really just a UK-made Celestion V30 where they de-dope the outside edge of the speaker. That's all it is. And it has a drastic effect on the sound of it.
Wow.
Yeah, but that's the Badcat speaker. And then the other speaker that we use now in some of our amps is this creamback Alnico, which is ridiculously expensive, but it sounds really good. It has a very nice, particularly amps that are heavy in mid-range, it has a very detailed mid-range.
And can I ask you, seeing as we're at the cabinet section, you make a cabinet that I've never seen anyone else make before. It's a 3x12?
Yes. Yeah, that was the original inspiration for that was a conversation I had with Mark Ford. And Peter was always pushing that too. Peter wanted the 312 cab. But Mark said to me, he said, the best amp I ever played was an old 310 Bandmaster. And he said if you take and I don't do this at home, kids, but he said if you go to a Super Reverb 410 and you just unplug one of the speakers, that impedance mismatch gives you a sort of a different kind of sound, mid-rangey kind of tone. I've never done that, but I have played a Bandmaster, excuse me, and I have played the Vibro King. Love them both, right? And so we experimented with a 312 cab, and it was kind of neat. It was interesting because it sounded big like a 412, but it didn't have that low kind of pillowy woofiness about it. It was more kind of present and punchy in the middle. Excuse me. But we have it. It doesn't. I mean, it's too big for me, right? I'm 60 years old, so I prefer the 112s and the smaller stuff. But if I was trying to get the sound of a 412 and I didn't want to go quite that big, I would use a 312.
It's really interesting, and it certainly makes you stand out. That's for sure.
Absolutely.
So once the amps are put into the cabs, then they're just packed up and shipped out?
No, then they go back to the dungeon, back over there.
Okay.
Where Rob plays them again. Because sometimes, in the process of loading it up, things can get bumped or moved. And if you've got a rattle in a cabinet or something like that, that can happen. And so we just double check them. And then finally when he play tests them, which by the way he does all day long, and I'll be in the office and I'll hear this insane Zeppelin riff and I go, wait a minute.
Dream job.
Show me how you play that. And so I'm constantly taking lessons from Rob. And then once he finishes that, he brings them back out here, sets them over on this side, and that is when they go into boxes over here. Let me see. They get boxed up and they get ready to go out the door. I wanted to know, I should show you. You could see if we can get one here. I don't know if I can find one. I'll show you a V30 versus a Badcat speaker, what they look like. That is a stock Celestion V30 right there. See that doping on the outside edge?
Yeah.
Okay, that's there. Yes. Over here and here somewhere. Let me see. This is a Badcat speaker, which is made in the UK. It's the same thing.
Oh. So it doesn't have... And that's just the only difference.
That's the only difference.
So it's almost like it's broken in before you even plug it in.
And these are, I think it's a 65 watt speaker or something like that. And our amps are 30 watt, 40 watt. So we've never had a problem with them. But that's the difference. And for years, that was the big secret. Oh no, we make them special. Don't. It's just a doping. That's all it is. But it makes a huge difference.
Yeah. So
they get boxed up, out they go. Hopefully, never to return. And then, so that's kind of how we work here. And then there's R&D and all the other things we do. And I can break something for you here if you want something. We are making a return to hand-wired amps, and I have a few I can show you. I can't tell you where they came from or what they're about, but I can show you what we got.
Like the video right now. Let's go take a look.
Here, follow me. Hub 5, EL84. This, you'll note, is PC board free, with the exception of this, which is a hand-filled PC board, this is the buffered effects loop. And we just felt like PC board amps need to have buffered effects loops. But this is the Cub 5, EL84. And it's sort of the next development in the Cub circuit, which has been going on since I think 2001, 2000, something like that. So just like the Cub 4, it has a EF86, AX7 switchable preamp, the depth control, which is an amazing sort of a bypass cap that lets more or less low end into a frequency. So you could be playing a Les Paul, and you might want to play it, say, here where it's a little thinner, and you switch to your telly, and you can kind of get the same sound or fullness of your Les Paul, but just by moving it 1 notch or 2 notches to the right. But the big trick here is it's got a buffered effects loop, and it has foot switchable master volumes.
Okay, very
I love.
versatile, especially for like the gigs. You want a solo boost, you can
Yeah.
just have that master set for a little bit higher.
Yeah, generally speaking, everything that we do here is sort of meant to be played in a band, right? That's what these things are for, right? Generally speaking, is to be played in a band or recorded with or something. But this, to me, is a deal breaker. You have to have that to play in a band, because if you clean boost, to me, sometimes they add gain, right? If you're playing, you want a clean guitar solo, your Dire Straits or something, you don't necessarily want to hit it with a clean boost and drive the front end of the preamp hard and get gain. You want just an amplitude.
Just want volume, yeah.
Amplitude. But so this is coming. The Cub 5 series, we're going to do an EL84 and an EL34. And then there's another hand-wired series I'm not quite ready to talk about yet, but it's coming.
It's coming.
Yeah, it's coming.
Okay, well, that's Badcat amplifiers here in Costa Mesa.
Costa Mesa, California.
And thank you for watching. Like the video if you liked it, subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.